Mike, you might not be a Ferengi, but you're magnificent to me.
I think that's the earliest I've had a stroke during the episode.
I should have known you were not going to be able to handle me saying something nice.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Keith and Mike Watch Deep Space Nine. Today, we're all excited. I know I'm excited. You're excited. We're talking about Season 6, Episode 10, The Magnificent Ferengi. We're here. It's super fun. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Keith. It's a weird day. Jen left for her show in Connecticut yesterday.
Oh, right.
So yesterday was my first full day as dad to dog and 3 cats solo.
So sole custody.
Which isn't like a big deal, but trying to work and like do stuff with a dog that's still in the I want to eat everything phase was stressing me out quite a bit. But she's actually much better behaved than I had given her credit for. But also, listen, I'm a little sad. I'm a little lonely right now. Not lonely so much as just I'll take a moment here at the top.
Mm-hmm.
This seems silly to say, but since there's some people engaged on our Patreon, and I've come to learn that one of the best things I ever did, Keith, was marrying the best person that I ever met. You know what I mean? So
yes.
I obviously miss my wife, but I miss my buddy. She's like my dearest friend, and they're sad that she's gone for a while, but I'm so happy that she's getting to do what she does. As you know, some of us are the best when we're doing what we do, so I'm glad that she's getting that.
Well, I mean, it is very true that the best case scenario is to marry your best friend that you want to kiss.
Yeah, that's
right.
Really good addition.
And that is, I think, the foundational part of it. And weirdly, because my marriage is done and we no longer kiss, but we're still best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very grateful to still have that part of it, at least.
Actually, that's humongous because, I would say that the vast majority of divorces and or relationships ending do so acrimoniously.
Yeah.
And
sure.
When you go about it for the right reasons, and because then you can maintain the best part. And I think you guys took away the best part of your relationship, which was your friendship.
Yeah, no question. Which is not to say that any breakup is not what you've got some acrimony in there, but
obviously.
It's merely a grinding in the transition to the best form of a relationship. So very, very happy about that. So anyway,
at least we live in a country that embraces transition, Keith.
Oh, for sure. And divorce will definitely still be legal in 6 months. No problem.
Can you get divorce on your Plex just in case?
You can get a lot these days. Anyway, So anyway, our best to Jen. I hope that she has a wonderful time. What show she do? I forgot. Oh, Fiddler.
Yeah, again in English.
Oh, English. Oh,
she's been looking to put a kind of a period at the end of the Fiddler on the Roof saga of her chapter of her life. Yeah. And so there was some question whether she wanted to do this again. For those who haven't been paying attention, she's done a lot of Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah.
But to do it in her language with one of her best friends as music director up in ACT in Connecticut, which is they just put all of their money on the stage, which is always nice.
It's a really good theater,
it's a great way for her to kind of say, this is my last hurrah with this. But so congrats. Well, I'll keep you posted on how that's all going. Maybe we could take a trip up and see it.
Sure, or at least get some footage.
As long as it's in one file.
In one file, that's right. No. So, but before we start recording now, it's basically just Mike and Keith swap neurodivergent stories. And so
that's a great segue, Keith. Last week was an episode roughly about neurodivergence. At least we wanted it to be.
Lots of different types of divergence, yes.
Yes. And we heard from so many of you about your sort of neuroses and what you deal with in life. And I think it's one of the main reasons people kind of take to us, Keith, some people, because we proudly display the
weirdest parts of yourself you can find in Keith and Mike every week here on the internet.
Yeah.
That's 100% true, but that's a good segue into our viewer comments about last week's episode, Statistical Probabilities. If you would like me to read your comment, join our Patreon at patreon.com/KandM.
We've got a bunch of, every week we're getting a few patrons. It's kind of insane. I'm going to be honest, it's insane to us. It's much appreciated. It actually does help because, I mean, let's be honest, I take at least 2 days off of work to work on this stuff. So
it's true.
It's a helpful bouillon.
There it is. All right, so here is what you had to say. Joshua Cronin says, I love the Jackpack. As you can imagine, I made these 4 customed figures. Of course you made custom figures for all 4 of them. I think it's a very interesting story about people with different gifts in the future. I enjoy their perspective of the war, and it brings out some substance to Bashir's character. Agreed. Cool to hear Wayoon speak in his native language. Happy when this comes up in my rewatch. Me too. I give it 75 self-sealing stem bolts. Oh, and for Teddy and I's nickname, let's go with Tren. No longer going to be using Teddy Bear, so Mike can function. Nerd alert, my Bajoran name is Bren. So Bren and Tren, hence why you see that name on some of my social medias. From Mr. Joshua Cronin, Brian from Video Game Drive-By says, welcome back, guys. Sorry you weren't feeling your best. Me and the lady had the crud, too. May it pass through you quickly and in the right order. It's hilarious. That was me. It was hilarious that the only part of my comment last episode was just the Pornhub discussion.
You know what? That's fair.
Not intentional, very on brand. We were, because, you know, as we've discussed many times, Mike and I are just 12-year-olds in very aging, broken down bodies. So we're like, oh, Pornhub, and then we could not focus, and then we lost the rest of the comment. So here's the rest of what you said this week. As for this episode, another fun one. It felt very personal for me. My mother used to work in a facility for the mentally handicapped. She would organize field days for them, and it was always fun for me because I got to go. Usually bowling trips. I love bowling. And each of the genetically modified individuals from this episode reminded me of friends I made during those days. And I always treasure this episode for reminding me of those remarkable people. And I myself have been Jack on more than one occasion. The immeasurable arrogance, not the violence. My own belief that I'm the most correct person in the room often bites me in the butt, even when I'm actually correct. And I occasionally think back to him and remind me to stop pushing the issue from time to time. Yeah, boy, do I feel you there. I feel like I'm Jack pretty much 24/7. I feel like that's what this show is.
This episode even brings a little bit of identity or just access to that type of differences in us as people, to people watching at home, or that they see themselves on the screen or that they see their friends or peers at school. I think it was good, even for the 90s.
Yeah, well, look, there is a lesson in there. Because, you know, there's another thing that is somewhat problematically aged, but somewhat not. The show South Pacific has a song called "You Have to Be Carefully Taught," and kids don't come out focused on difference.
Yeah,
kids come out focused on the same, on collaboration, on shared experience, and wanting to do stuff. They have to be taught by somebody else to focus on the difference, and there's a lesson
I think that's kind of the fear. Not to get too deep into this, you know, we can disagree on policy and all kinds of political stuff. We can have a conversation about it, but it is hard to. And this doesn't just go for the top for the president. This doesn't go for Trump. This goes for a lot of politicians. Focused on him as well, because it's kind of the zeitgeist right now. But kids, you know, how do you teach when there isn't accountability, when the rich and the powerful can do whatever they want, they can say whatever they want, no one's held to account? I don't envy parents and educators at this time trying to trying to circle that square. That's just a tough.
Right. That's right. You're going to have accountability. You have to tell the truth. You have to behave honestly. You have to behave fairly. But the people at top, they don't have to.
No.
And God, I hadn't even considered that. That's an impossible task for a parent right now.
Yeah, and in the face of, we're trying to teach these kids that, listen, you got all of these tools available to you, AI, the internet, that can do so much of the heavy lifting intellectually for you, or I guess, but now you have to be smart enough to figure out what's true, what isn't true. So what's that guiding principle, Keith? Morals, ethics, and where are you supposed to derive those from, right? So it's a tricky time.
And also, information literacy. Like you have to be, in order to have information literacy, you have to have an understanding of what truth as in the concept of the word is, and how to tell it, and more importantly, to value it. We don't live in a society that values truth. Truth is a threat to what I want, so I've undermined the very concept of truth, regardless of what you think the truth is, right? The concept of truth has been devalued in the same way the concept of honesty has been devalued, the concept of fairness, the concept of equality, all of it has not just been devalued, it has been intentionally attacked and undermined. And,
in lieu of what? Volume? Engagement? Yeah, we've really kind of gamified the whole thing.
In lieu of what the oligarchy wants. And they manipulate half of the population to devalue these things so they'll do what the oligarchy wants.
Which is why it's important for, I think, storytellers and creators who still protected by free speech, thank goodness,
for now.
Can use science fiction and fantasy
to speak the truth through fantasy in a way that you cannot speak the truth.
We basically got to firewall it now. That's what we got to do.
Well, but it's the same thing that Star Trek has always done, right? That's going back to the 60s, by telling fantasy stories about racism through they're like a lizard person, so we're learning about inequality and racial inequality in the 60s without saying what it is, because we Greek it through sci-fi, but we're actually telling the truth about what's happening right there in 1966. That art, we need to move forward.
Yep.
So poor Brian, I've remembered to go back to the rest of the comment. Says, I give this episode a good 85 genetically modified stem bolts. Mrs. Drive-By wanted to chime in. She says no to a Klingon ceremony, but if either of y'all want to officiate it, she's totally down. And I got a good chuckle out of the Olive Garden comment. Anyways, Happy New Year to everyone, and I hope everyone has a safe and enjoyable
This woman,
year.
Marry this woman. She's going to let your podcast friends officiate your wedding? That is a find.
These idiots? No.
Listen, I'm sure you too. I guarantee you this, as much as we are knuckleheads, we would be very respectful, and we would give you a ceremony we would never forget. I don't know that we could do it for free, Keith.
I would love to do it via Zoom for free.
I will come to your wedding.
I think that's twice I've refused to leave
Keith's
my basement on this.
Keith's out. I'm in though. I'm there. You let me know when, where, and you send me that invite. I'm there.
Look, Mike's the hot one. We all know. That's what people want.
Listen.
All right.
So now, you've been in my head all week, Keith, with your making fun of my hair comment. I can't get away from it.
Never mind, the hat is back. Kailana Dakmar says, enjoying then, by the end, throw them in prison. Traitors. Who are in an isolated monitoring stage in the Bay and live in an institute with security monitoring, and real incarceration locations aren't much different in security isolation levels. Federation basically white-collar prisons. No, Jack deserved con punishment, says Keith. Thank goodness for fictional Cisco and the in-real-life writers of the show, so as not to be horribly thrown in prison like that monster Keith would say. Now, as I said, I was not saying we throw them in prison.
You just said they just let treason is. It was like treason light.
I was saying some accountability. I was not saying throw them in Alcatraz. I was saying we should probably take the treason of it all a little bit more seriously and have some sort of whatever the appropriate accountability for that would be. Not necessarily locking them up. But anyway, Scott B says, I don't actually think their villain turn is a villain turn at all. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to continue.
That was, I think, in comment to on the watch along. I never pitched it on our review, but I was a little suspect to how quickly we made them villains, and it was a little mustache twirly. So I think Scott's gonna.
Well, I'm glad he's correcting you, not me. Yeah. If you can watch the watch along. You can watch Mike watch the episode. Sometimes he does it live, sometimes he doesn't. But you can comment along as you watch along Mike.
Did you know that if you're just a member of the Patreon, Keith, don't even have to pay. You can be a free member. You get to listen along free. And some people prefer it.
I certainly would. Scappy says, I don't actually think their villains turn as villain at all. I think the scene order very deliberately tries to show that their plan is the logical extreme of the same concerns Bashir himself voiced in the scenes before, but completely unbound by a Starfleet sense of ethics. To them, there's a pretty minimal difference between surrender to save 1 trillion lives and a treasonous killing of 2 billion in order to save 1 trillion lives, and purely statistically, that may be true. But to Bashir, that difference is everything, and that's where he finally can see how far he's gone down the rabbit hole. Yeah, I mean, I think their logic is sound, right? I mean, like, so was Thanos's, right? And like, you know, think about our planet today. Our overpopulation is destroying the planet. If we could snap our fingers and have half of the people here, although let's just say the people doing most of the damage are a very small percent. We could take out 1% of the people and save the planet without having to take out half of them. But it is logically true. It is mathematically true. It is not morally true, but it is logically true. Kevin Miles says, this episode has mixed feelings for me. It makes me feel good that everyone can contribute to society regardless of their quirks, yet angry that some people still can't see this. I give this episode 83 self-sealing stem bolts. Yeah, man. The world we're in, man, it's dark. YouTube viewer says, saying about this episode we're about to talk about, The Magnificent Ferengi is my favorite lighthearted Star Trek episode. Teaser. Your interpretation that Bashir's parents got the top-of-the-line genetic enhancements and these guys got the Groupon genetic enhancement is valid. My interpretation was that the genetic enhancement in Star Trek is a roll of the dice, and whether they turn out like Jack or Julian is based mostly on dumb luck. I didn't catch the Shakespeare connection until you pointed it out. I think the Star Trek writers and producers really like Shakespeare a lot. That's why Patrick Stewart and the other major players in Star Trek have Shakespearean backgrounds.
Who knew? Shakespeare.
Yeah.
He's onto something.
Yeah, well, you know, we see many Shakespeare performances on Next Gen, for sure.
If only we could see Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes do like a modern retelling.
Yes.
That was just on yesterday. I just happened to...
I was going to say, you said that like this is breaking news. I'm like, from what, 1994? Like, okay.
97, I think? 98?
It was probably around this came out.
Yeah. That was good.
Well,
that was a good movie, turns out.
Never watched it.
The soundtrack's killer.
We almost had Claire Danes in our house.
What?
They came, Netflix came by and was scouting our house for us Claire Danes series, and we actually he came in, he took pictures that we didn't actually do it, but there was a chance Claire Danes was going to be here in the house. So
1996, Keith.
Yeah, 90s Keith, who had a crush on Claire. I mean, let's face it, I still have a crush on Claire Danes.
Yeah, of course, she's excellent. Nobody does crazy breakdown like Claire Danes. Nobody.
She'll always be my so-called life to me.
What was the CIA show she was so good in?
Homeland.
Yes. God, so good.
Yeah. Anyway, where are we here? Nowhere. So, the bit about the Universal Translator was great world building.
Yes.
I like the idea that linguistic studies still have a purpose. In Star Trek Enterprise, one of the main cast members is a linguist and she is pretty busy because their universal translator is very failure prone. That's one of my favorite parts of Enterprise. Artificial gravity, replicators, transporters, etc. are all in their infancy, so they break down a lot and require the crew to resort to low-tech solutions fairly often. Do you know the timeline of Enterprise?
That's Bakula, right?
The Bakula.
It's early. It's a prequel, right?
It's before Kirk even. So, which is why they're the first warp ship. So they're out
prior Pike.
Before Pike, before all that. So they're the very first warp ship. So everything is brand new and breaks down, which I agree. I think that is a great part of it.
You always thought it was cool that their uniforms sort of looked NASA-esque adjacent.
Well, because they're sort of halfway between NASA and Star Trek. It's interesting. YouTube continues, in principle, I agree with you that the United States might be better off if its politicians focused more on the long term and less on the next election cycle, which is the ceiling of how far most can look. In practice, in every region and era of Earth, the nations and governments prone to long-term thinking are almost all authoritarian regimes because long-term political thinking assumes I will always be in power. I think that's a very interesting point. I will say though, here in our country, there have been many times and eras where we were able to have long-term thinking. I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. I think that and I think that there's value in having to think about the next election as well as thinking long-term. But even as recent as Obamacare. Right? Many people who voted and helped us establish the Affordable Care Act, which we all rely on today and has been, it's not perfect, but it's had tremendous success with it. A lot of the people who voted that knew in 6 months they were going to be out of a job. They were going to lose their next race, and many people did. But because of long-term thinking, they gave us things that helped us. And so you want to go back further generations, think about setting up Social Security, setting up Medicare, setting up all of those things that took long-term thinking that overrode the short-term thinking. And so the combination of the two, I think, has great value. It's probably a good thing that they cut the scene out where Serena speaks because it changes her character drastically. The 4 guest stars get a very light punishment for treason, and that's pretty normal for Star Trek. And he lists a couple examples of that, and yeah. This episode does a lot of good table setting for later and dips into a lot of different interesting issues, but the episode is a bit weak as a standalone. As part of the Deep Space Nine continuity, I give them 84 genetically enhanced stem bolts, and as a standalone, I give it 72 genetically enhanced stem bolts. Love the specificity of all of that. JD says, Happy New Year to y'all. Keith, I say this came out in Keith says it came out in 1999. That's not true. 1997. Been a while since the... here we go, Mike. Been a while since the word surprise was used as a very sick burn. Sorry, Mike.
It's I have to say, Hall of Fame of burns on the channel.
Thank you, Mike, for letting him know about the buzzing. It was annoying, but funny as hell.
Yes, there's still a slight click and pop, but it's
really?
It's tolerable.
Still right now?
It's popping in and out. It's so... only my neurodiversities will notice it.
No, that's unacceptable. Right. See, all right, so behind the scenes. So I'm using a Motu M2 as my interface between my microphone and the computer. And I think some sort of every once in a while a Windows update comes through and it messes with the drivers a little bit and makes it a little bit unstable. And mine is a little unstable right now. So, so in between segments, I'm going to reboot.
Okay.
So
the whole
JD
computer
continues.
we're gonna reboot?
No, just the Motu.
Oh boy.
Relax. I do need a live watch along in a few weeks.
Yep.
And I know which one you're referring to, and here's what's going to happen for that one, right? Because everyone wants it to be live, everyone wants to see Mike watch that, and I completely agree. It's a very important one, and Mike needs to do it. However, I'm going to be there to moderate the comments and feed Mike the comments that he needs to know, or just whatever's relevant in that moment, because I want Mike to be able to focus on the episode. So I will moderate a little bit and hit Mike. Yeah,
there's
with
a lot of listen. It's gonna. I promised we're gonna make it happen. I will say that We're entering into NFL playoff territory here, and the Philadelphia Eagles are in that. So depending on their success will be my dedication to anything else. Will really determine. Although midweek we should be okay. I feel like we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, they're not gonna play on a Wednesday.
Anything's possible, Keith. Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. Up is down, down is up. We're buying Greenland, Panama Canal. We're calling everything America. It's all crazy.
We're gonna go hop in the Gulf of America.
Deep Space America.
Deep Space America.
It's fun to laugh because it's real.
Yikes. Anyway, he also says, if I die first, I want Mike to sing A Candle in the Wind at my funeral.
Like a candle in the wind. Thank you for the $30 you gave us. I'd like to give
that you died.
I'd like to give it back to your widower.
I can't believe we outlived you with our basic lifestyles.
You know, it's hard to get hit by a car when you never leave the house.
True enough.
Well, Keith will be there on Zoom.
That's exactly right.
What kind of asshole brings a laptop? Oh, it's Keith. Sorry. It's just Keith.
Mike, do you want to officiate the funeral?
Yeah, I'll just hold you.
Hope the funeral went well. Mike, the next podcast is Happy Days. Very unlikely. Although I do like the idea of having to only recap 22 minutes.
Yeah, Jen was all on board for us doing Golden Girls, and I was like, well, that's not out of the question.
Two middle-aged straight guys review Golden Girls.
It might be the one take that show hasn't gotten.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
And I know we both. I think it was on that tour. We've both done an official watch through on the DVDs. Was that on Titanic?
No, I didn't.
That was me. So you've never done a full watch through of Golden Girls?
Oh no.
Oh my god. Okay.
I've probably only seen like 10 episodes.
Oh my god. Oh boy. We're going to have to talk about that because that could be the greatest thing. There is no better show. If you're a comedian, there is no better show.
I mean, no doubt. It's great. Well,
Keith,
anyway.
Keith, there's so much. We got to... Okay.
This segment is the length of a Golden Girls episode. We need to finish it up. JD continues, Mike, when you ask about what they say in this episode is where my problem, because no, they don't say a lot. They do some heavy implying about some dark things, and I know people who were institutionalized back in the 70s and 80s that got very similar treatment and profiling as these characters. Mike's reading comparing to LGBT people is very valid here. Excuse me, especially when we consider that Lauren is presented as a hypersexual and Patrick is coded as ace. And to be honest, if I were remaking this episode today, I would actually be tempted to cast a trans actress to play Lauren, but then never address it in the script, and even leave the part about how Jack tried to get with her, because I 100% agree Jack is pansexual. Yeah, I think I mean, I would love...
I'm sorry, I don't know what ace means.
I don't either. You have to look it up. But I love the idea. I mean, 100% there should be much more diversity in this group, and there would be today, of all types, right? You know, like, why are they all basically the same age? Like, white folks, all cis white folks.
Can that be right?
I don't know, buddy.
Children's adverse childhood experiences.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure they're all dealing with...
What is ACE in ADHD?
With trauma in some form, for sure.
I'm sure there's also more acronyms than I'm Googling.
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching... speaking of that, I'm watching Squid Game Season 2. I'm not done yet. Don't tell me what happens.
I'm not watching it.
You're not watching it? Have you not watched the first one?
I did. I loved it, but I just felt like it ended satisfyingly for me.
It did. The second one's interesting. It's different. It has a lot of similarities. It has a lot of differences. I like it, but they have this tremendous trans character, but it's played by a cis actor. And I think, like, today, come on, guys.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Conditions that occur as a result of adverse childhood experience could include anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress, phobias,
Podcasting
insomnia,
about Deep Space Nine.
mood disorders, substance use, eating. So I think I'm following. It's kind of a catch-all term.
Yeah, okay, well, fair enough. All right, Zontar1 says, I like these guys and concept. The oversexed woman is made palpable funny of a known disorder causing serious social uncontrollable sexual behavior, Mike. Adding character side backstory development for Bashir, which is used, yes, which is great. They use this in Bashir's aspect for Bashir in the books published once the show stopped, like the Spock stuff. And WTF for Bashir stuff. Where is Garrick with Julian? The spy who lives, breathes this stuff, and they ate meals over it. Yeah, 100% Garrick should have been a part of all of this.
Yes, can't disagree with this.
And you know, I get it, production, whatever, you have to pay him, but like, you're gonna do this huge, like, intelligence thing specifically dealing with the Cardassians, and you're not gonna have Garrick there? Craziness. All right, well, there are our patron comments. If you'd like to join them, you can go to patreon.com/K&M. It's now time to talk about the episode. What do you say?
I think that's a good idea, Keith, but I also, before we do that, wanted to mention, you know what? I will save it, forget it, that I said anything.
Done. Forget when you say anything. Okay, so this aired Season 6, Episode 10, The Magnificent Ferengi. Guess what? We've taken about a month and a half off. And this aired on New Year's Day, 1998. Happy New Year in real life. Happy New Year all those years ago. Yeah. The top song, I bet you think it's gonna be different, but it's not. It's still Candle in the Wind.
It's like a candle in the wind.
Wait, hold on, Mike. Stop. You're at JD's funeral. Be respectful.
Why's JD dead?
Because he's the one who wants you to sing it at his funeral.
Oh, okay. Like a candle.
Did you not listen to the riff we did for like 20 minutes?
In the wind. I hate to bring this up right now at JD's funeral, but I'm one of his patron members, and every week we're supposed to get a 3D file, and it was hard for me not to notice that we didn't get one this week. We'll be getting them posthumous. I mean, the joke is that he's dead, so he didn't release one, and I'm asking for my money's worth.
I see.
Yeah, because you said to do it in the funeral, see?
Okay, so you're flogging the corpse for a 3D model.
JD's candle burned out long before his 3D scans ever did.
I feel like JD will have some buffer. He'll have some...
You're right. He's much more prepared than we are.
A million times more prepared. All right. The top movie. I feel like we've hit an iceberg here on this episode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which means we're going to have to do near far wherever you are for the next month.
Well, it's going to take a while because it took a while for that to become the number one song. But I believe, didn't we? I think we recorded versions of both Candle in the Wind and that for Oops.
I'm sure we did.
We got to go find whatever we did for that. But
I love that movie. I think it's a good movie. My wife adores that movie, but we'll save you a long Titanic diatribe here.
Well, it's going to be around for a while,
Yeah.
so we'll have plenty of time to talk about it, much like we're going to talk about what was on TV tonight. It's New Year's.
Much like the Titanic, Keith, that segment's going to go down in sync because I didn't look it up.
Okay, well, no surprises there
No
either.
room on the door for you this week, TV.
No. What was Voyager doing? Well, the last episode that aired was Mortal Coil, in which Neelix deals with the afterlife, or perhaps the lack thereof.
All right.
An interesting little dark moment there on Voyager. We'll get to it in a few years. This episode was directed by Chip Palmers, the first of two that he will direct, both of them good. And it was written by Ira Stephen Bear and Hans Beimler. And after all of this deadly serious conversations we've had so far, it's time for something just a little lighter. Now, Keith, waste your time.
Yeah, but with what?
With trivial trivia. Man, when I took that photo, I was like, oh my God, my beard is so gray. And now I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, my beard was just a little bit gray.
So every time we watch that trivial trivia bumper, I think to myself, we're getting really late in the show here. We're almost halfway through season 6, almost.
Yeah.
And I've still yet to see Odo playing the piano with Kira doing a siren song.
That's true.
When do I get to see this?
Sometime before the end of the series, or maybe not at all. It might be for something else. Might be AI. Who knows?
Okay. You guess you're right. What the hell's truth anyway?
Yeah, what is truth? Truth is irrelevant. Yeah, exactly. All right, so before I begin this this trivial trivia, I'm hoping you didn't notice. The new Vorta we meet, Yelgren. Any idea who played him?
It was, you know what? I was commenting on the watch along that I want that person to do, or that I imagine that person does a lot of voiceover, because just great voiceover, and had a stature. It was on the tip of my tongue. I definitely know that actor, but I did not see the name in the credits and did not look it up because I'm me.
Okay, well, I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
It is not rare to hear that person's voice. It is, however, rare to see that person with a shirt on.
That doesn't help me, but it turns me on.
Oh my God. This is going to be even more delicious when I tell you who it is.
Who is it?
It's Iggy Pop.
Oh, really?
Really?
Really? Oh.
Really?
Iggy Pop should keep the makeup on. Because that Vorta looked better fed than Iggy Pop does.
I'm just saying, like, you would totally bang Vorta Iggy Pop.
Only. Yeah.
Only. Okay. Well, good to know. So, Iggy Pop as
goes at heroin, if you know what I'm saying.
Iggy Pop as Yelgren can be seen frequently holding his left arm during his scenes. This is due to the fact that the night before, while performing at a concert, he did a stage dive. And in his words, the crowd parted like the Red Sea, causing him to hit the floor, and he separated his left shoulder. He still managed to perform his role the next day despite his discomfort.
You know, that happened to me once, Keith?
I think you told that story, yeah.
I'll give the summation. I went to an Everclear concert, so Santa Monica, y'all might remember. I'm still living with your ghost. Down, 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 down. Anyway, my friend was trying, everybody was stage, like crowd surfing, and they're like, come on, Mike. I was like, no, I can't. They finally, they cajoled me into it. I go up, and all I see is just a giant hole in the crowd, and I was like, I'm gonna go. And I did. Hurt my shoulder bad.
Yeah. That's, any questions on whether or not I have ever crowd surfed? Gonna be a hard no. Hard. I have, however, been in a mosh pit. I bet you didn't think that was true. It's because my older brother, Sean, who you met, who worked on the show, is in a fantastic hardcore band called 5 Seconds Expired, now about to re-release their catalog in a 20-year reunion.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, super cool. We'll play some on the show. I just have to remember to pull it up.
Almost unhealthy how talented the Varney boys are.
Sean is, at least. Astoundingly talented.
It all kind of averages out.
Yeah, all right. No, I mean, we know what side of the average I'm yanking on. So,
Keith,
all right.
Bell curve Carney.
Carney. I mean, I got the curve.
Yeah.
I got the bell curve right here, buddy.
You got those long, sticky fingers like a Carney.
Okay, well, after Mike makes out with Iggy Pop dressed as a Vorta, he's probably going to end up with sticky fingers. Despite the writer's claim that this episode had nothing to do with Seven Samurai or the Magnificent Seven, both Armin Shimmerman and Max Grodenchik studied the films prior to shooting their scenes. From the Magnificent Seven, Grodenchik said Rom is as a wimpy Steve McQueen, and Shimmerman seeing Quark in the Yul Brynner role. Yeah, obviously. Continuing with Iggy Pop in his role as Yelgren was the realization of a personal goal for Ira Stephen Bear, who was a fan of the musician. Bear tried to cast Iggy Pop as Grady in Past Tense Part 2, remember the gardener, played by Ray Walston, I believe, but their conflicting schedules made it impossible. Now that would have been really interesting to have him play the gardener, to play Grady.
Iggy Pop's done other stuff.
He's done a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But Grady in specific, because, bit of a spoiler alert, but I know that Mike will not remember, this is not the last we're going to see of Grady, but not on Deep Space Nine. So,
how many IMDb credits do you think Iggy Pop has?
As a actor or just as
voiceover?
Himself?
Actor or voiceover?
Actor, voiceover, like 100?
48.
48.
Soundtrack 375, composer 23,
Sure.
Producer 1, and as himself 238.
How many IMDb credits do I have?
Keith Varney?
Yeah.
Is that a joke? Do you want me to look it up?
I bet it's like 2.
Keith Varney, hold on.
Because I do not pay for the thing, so I don't.
Yeah,
really
I
know.
don't. I would never do that. But here we do. I see a couple Keith Varneys. Here we go.
No, I'm there.
Listen Up musical. The Listen Up musical, music department, 2021.
Did I do that?
I mean, it was 3 years ago.
Oh, right. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, because it was I was mentoring these kids, and they shot. I think they made a documentary. Am I in the documentary?
I mean, you're listed.
Wow.
It just says music department.
Weird, because I was like helping kids with writing.
That's cool,
That's
buddy.
interesting.
Congratulations. Well, that's your IMDb credit.
Oh, well then that's not my normal one. Oh, all right. See, now I gotta go and combine myself.
You gotta merge, baby.
I gotta merge. All right. Anyway, why are we doing this? So all of the Ferengi seen in this episode have been featured on the series before. Aside from the obvious returning characters, Gala appeared in Business as Usual, while Lek was an unnamed Ferengi who was seen exiting the chamber of the Grand Nagus in Ferengi love songs. Zek is the only Ferengi returning character not to appear in this episode. This was due to Wallace Shawn's unavailability. This changed the identity of the person who was kidnapped by the Dominion, as it was originally to be Zek and not Ishka. Interesting. You know who shows up on all of the IMDb credits of my heart, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
This is your time, buddy.
Yeah. That's the patrons, Keith. This slide is crazy to me. I just am so thankful. Yeah, so let's get into it. Here is the people. Sorry.
You were really ready for that.
Unable to multitask. Here are the people that make this show so special and possible, quite frankly. Brian Kimball Biersuck, Peter Bank, Frank Rinch, Quarks Bar, Yanba, Ryan Chesley, Andre, Romulan Shoulderpad Enjoyer, Jamie, Lubin, Jason Moe. Listen, Jason is a Hall of Famer, and we are so thankful to see him back. Joshua Cronin, Andrew Hayes, Alan, and the Mysterious Warps, Big Old Boot Shivs, Charles Babbage, John Kelly, Harry Pothead, Anton Thies, Carl Fisher, Alan Gerton, Anton, Deborah Scott, Tren, which keeps making me think of, remember that, what was that drug that people got skinny on for a while? It was like the original Ozempic. Fen. Yeah, it just gave people heart attacks.
It's Bren Tren.
Bren Tren. Bren Tren. Do you need a heart attack? Just hang out with Bren Tren. They'll do it. But just because of hotness. Chancellor Jen, Brian from Video Game Drive-By, CR. I'm sorry if that was offensive. I meant it in the best way. CRM Productions, Nikolay Ivanovich Lobachevsky, YouTube viewer James Hubbard, Hibernation Pod, Miri Holcomb, Odo's Bucket, Lost Emu, what a emu, Scotty B, Merritt Neath, I'm having a heart attack and a stroke, JD Bates,
What's happening over there?
Colin Dagan, I'm trying to finish up before the slide's over, Chris Mitchell, CRM, Frank Rinch, Pat, Joshua Cronin, just by himself, Kevin Miles, Engineer Maynard, Jerome A. Gibson, Zontar1, DC Bolian for Soup. Bolian's got a shout out this episode. Lutz Kremer, Wyatt Eldritch, and Kevin Miles. Folks, if you stick with it, you could become one of the Hall of Famers. Casey Clark, Jason Moe,
Welcome
Brian
back,
Kaufman.
Jason Moe.
So excited to see you, Jay. Joshua Cronin, The Mysterious Anne, Andrew Hayes, Worf's Big Old Boot Shivs, Colin Dagan, Quark's Bar, Peter Benke, Jennifer Massanova from way back in the day. She doesn't even know she's getting shout-outs every week. Cloud Lover 69.
Probably glad to not know that.
We should let her know. Jorge Navoa, maybe not. Charles Babbage, Brian Kilby, Kevin Frank, JD, CRM, Ryan. Listen, I get giddy because it's crazy. We never thought we'd have any. When we pitched the Patreon because we needed some way to help, we'd never thought that there'd be more than Keith's mom. And
she doesn't listen.
So you don't have to either, but we will take your money and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's America right there. All right, thank you, everybody. Let's talk about our guest stars. And we've got a great group today. Jeffrey Combs he's here as Brunt today.
Oh, right.
You realize it's the same actor.
I wouldn't. If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know.
No. So yeah, he's now done, I don't know how many Brunts and he's done a ton of Wei-Yuns and like 4 or 5 Brunts now. Crazy.
It makes sense because it would have been Wei-Yun probably doing the negotiations because...
That's true, though.
Maybe not.
I think it would have been too small time for Wei-Yun.
Yeah.
But I mean, it certainly would have been fun to have him do both.
Yeah.
It would have been a logistical nightmare. But
and plus, they blew their budget doing that with Kira a couple weeks ago, or they did a
yeah, we did a split screen Kira, but he will. There are episodes where he does both. So fun. Max Grodenchik as Rom, Aaron Eisenberg as Nog, Cecily Adams back as Ishka, Josh Pace as Gala, Christopher Shea as Kevin. Just such great, like... All right, never mind. Forget it. Hamilton Camp as Lek, Chase Masterton as Lita, and Iggy Pop as Yelgren. Mike didn't find that was relevant. He wanted to move forward.
My
wanted to sing.
My sticky fingers got caught on the stream deck.
God. All right.
What's happening?
So, it is a normal day in Quarks, but he's got something exciting. He got his hands on some syrup of squill.
Which will cause sticky finger.
It will, which is one of my one of the worst tactile things I can possibly think. Sticky fingers upsets me at like a deep level.
Dirty hands in any kind of way, actually, but
dirty is fine. Sticky is hard.
Like if I have chips or anything, like if I just any sort of thing on my finger, I have to wash them.
Oh, yeah, it's just sticky for me. The sensation of sticky, hard no. Anyway, Quark tries to hold court because he's quite proud of himself having accomplished this. But then Dax, O'Brien, and Bashir come back from a secret mission. And everybody's immediately more interested in their success than Quark's. Weird that Worf is not in the scene. He's not in this episode. Very rare.
They got Avery Brooks in, though.
They got Avery Brooks in, but to not have Worf, I think he must have had a scheduling thing because he would be in this scene.
He's doing a lot of directing right now.
He's probably flying a plane somewhere. You know that Dorn is a pilot?
I do now.
I believe he owns like a fighter jet that he flies. Craziness. Anyway, so folks are generally more excited by war stories than business stories. Turns out they've just come back from the first reconnaissance mission through the wormhole since the war started. Remember we used to go to the other side of the wormhole?
Yeah.
We don't really do that anymore. Yeah. Quark is naturally annoyed, and Odo is naturally not bothered by Quark's misery. No shock there. Then a Ferengi background actor who does not get a line whispers in Quark's ear. He's got a message from the Nagus. I always feel bad for the poor background actor. The difference between him saying, "You've got a message from the Nagus," and is like thousands of dollars. Before
we move forward, you know what this I'm going to say this a lot, but But what I really loved about this scene, in particular, this setup, even before you find out about the mission we're going to go on, is it really gives a good scale to the going-ons of Deep Space Nine. Often, because we are looking at this through the perspective of the Starfleet officers and what they're going through,
right?
We think that's sort of the main focus, right? But on a space station that's huge, and there's just like life going on and commerce taking place, right? It's like in my daily life, I'm rarely thinking about what the cops are up to, right?
Right.
Interesting. That's actually a funny parallel. Yesterday, I was driving to Petco to pick up something, and there was this like cop car behind me, and I was like, and I was freaking out a little bit because I have to get my license renewed. And I was like, I wasn't speeding, wasn't doing anything. What is this cop following me for? All of a sudden, it was about me, right? And they just parked next to me, and then obviously they were buying dog food, right? They just were doing their lives too,
right? And you forget.
Yeah, it brought that. There's also stuff going on. Anyway, this did the reverse. It made me think, oh yeah, there's like stuff happening, and then the officers walking into the bar and telling their stories would be of a lot of interest to people because, generally speaking, they're just like selling dresses and just living on the space station, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is really true because I always think about because it's like with cops or like teachers when you're kids, and like it's hard to like imagine like that a teacher has a normal life and like poops.
Yeah,
but they do.
Yeah,
think about that when you're in third grade. It's weird. It's gross. Glad I brought it up.
Specific, yeah.
I don't know. My brain's bad. So, Quark tracks Rom down in the Jeffries tubes with news. Moogie, their mother, has been taken prisoner by the Dominion, and the Nagus wants Quark to rescue her. And they finish the teaser with "uh-oh," which is the perfect end to any teaser. Mm-hmm. If you're writing, folks, and you're writing a teaser, it should always end with "uh-oh."
Yeah, but like, can we not bypass this incredible way to get Avery Brooks in the episode?
That's in Act 1, Betty.
Oh, sorry.
So in Act 1, Quark and Rom crawl through Jeffries' tube after Jeffries' tube as they discuss. Quark gets Rom to come help by offering to share the reward money, 50 bars of gold-pressed latinum, and they're going to do an even split after the finder's fee. Of course, they keep crawling through. Rom is surprised they captured Moogie since females aren't allowed to leave Ferenginar. Eek. So Quark tells Rom about her hooking up with Zek and running the economy of the planet. This is news to Rom. Interesting. And apparently she got captured on her way to getting her lobes raised. We could all use a lobe raise every once in a while. I thought they do a tremendous job of stretching the single Jeffries tube set to make it look like it goes on forever and ever. Because really they don't have a bunch of those. They have a Jeffries tube and they have the little junction set, and then they just had to like different angles, go back, go forward, go back, do it this way. The magic of TV. Then they accidentally poked their heads out into Sisko's office, which was pretty funny. Now, if you go back and watch. I'm actually curious. Folks out there in the universe, I need your help on this because Mike and I are watching this AI upscaled version, which looks better in the screenshot. It definitely looks better. However, the AI is not always perfect because in the longer shot of Sisko here when he first does his first line, the AI version, his mouth is not moving at all. So I'm wondering, is that because AI didn't pick it up and just left his mouth static? Or did they ADR it and think people wouldn't notice that he wasn't speaking when that happened? So somebody look it up and tell me. But I definitely want his ship models.
Yeah, the thing, this season specifically, in fact, I might look into a better... There are 3 major upscale models that have been used for the Deep Space Nine. Forgive me for not knowing them off the top of my head, and I went with each season I looked at a different one, but season 6 and 7 I got the same one, and I've been actually overall pretty displeased with season 6 thus far.
It's not as good as season 5.
No, and the mouths are really messed up, and it's not great. So I'm gonna look at the other ones for season 7.
Find a better version. Yeah, give it to me. And I also need season 7 and season 1. I have the upscaled of all the rest of them for my archives.
I should send you Google.
Not Google. No, Google Drive sucks.
No, I meant like the search engine. Like, go look for it.
I did. I couldn't. Go to hell.
No, actually, I don't know that they've done the whole series. I think it's just
I got
later
a
seasons.
Google right here for you. Send you Google, you dick.
You ever look? There is a funny website. It's called Let Me Google That For You. And like, if somebody asks you something, you type it in there, and it just sends them a GIF of somebody Googling the thing. It's pretty funny.
Hilarious. All right. Anyway, so they eventually find their way to a hallway, and Rom realizes they need help. He sensibly suggests a commando team of mercenaries, but Quark, which I think is cool, wants it to be an all-Ferengi team. This is his chance to prove that they can be badass too. And again, good thematic writing. Because, like, you know, obviously in the teaser you want to end on an uh-oh, but you also want to set up what is this sort of about. And watching Quark realizing that these people do not see what he's good at as heroic. Mm-hmm. His people do. I mean, you know, getting a deal in commerce in Ferenginar, he is a hero. It is badass for doing that. But he wants to be badass on his new friends' terms.
Yeah, I think it needs to be mentioned while we're talking about it, because it's really one of my... Spoiler alert, I really like this episode, and there aren't that many nits to pick. There are, but one of the nits that is like... So obviously in many of the teasers that are setting up the major arc, there's a lot of convenience at play, right? Usually speaking, a lot of times, I don't actually see the tie-in to the teaser till later, and that's kind of always kind of a fun puzzle to put together. Kind of like how Ozark does those sort of icons at the beginning of the episode, and you don't know what they are until you watch the episode. This is one of the most ridiculously convenient teasers. He's like, man, I wish I could go on an adventure, and then it's like, adventure. And you're like, okay. We didn't even attempt to pad that out in any way, but
well,
okay.
No, but because, like, yes, and this dynamic happens every single day to him. Right? All he does every day is brag about his business, and all that happens every day. They're in the middle of a war. Mm-hmm. Heroes come in, and people blow him off for what's happening in the war every single day. So it's not like this is like so convenient. It just happens to be this is the day that the part 2 happens, but part 1 happens every damn day.
That's
for
fair.
Quark.
That's fair.
So
that's why it's not a wormhole, Keith. It's just a nit to pick.
The first recruit, of course, is Nog. He doesn't want Latinum. He doesn't want to do it, but you know what? He can't pass up the chance at being in authority. And he is going to be in charge of training and tactics. You know, a lot of this, because we're assembling the Avengers, the Ferengi Avengers here so fast, this is where the groundwork that this series has done
pays off.
Really pays off. And all the work that we've done with Nog here, we know the chance to have some authority, to be not the lowest person on the totem pole is instantly gonna suck him in here. And it's great. We don't need to explain it. It's all, I can be in charge. Boom, I'm in. Love it. So next up, they're reaching out to a sociopath assassin named Lek. We have technically met him previously on Ferenginar, but this is the first time we have known his name or his occupation. And his motivation is a chance to prove himself by facing the Dominion. So, weirdly...
Dude, if this actor doesn't have this framed and up on a wall in his house...
Oh my god.
You know what I mean?
I'd paint the mural on the side of the house.
That's awesome.
Just like staring down at the neighborhood kids. Like, that's what I would do. But it is interesting that their first 2 recruits, neither one of them are motivated by Latinum, despite the fact that they're Ferengi. Interesting. So next, they go to the Federation space station. How? Without a ship? Don't worry about it. And they're here to get Cousin Gala, who is being held here after having been arrested for vagrancy. His arms-dealing days having been blown up by Quark. Why was he brought to a Federation station? For vagrancy on a different planet? Don't worry about it. He's still pissed at Quark.
Should we just lump all of the don't worry about it's together right now, right here and now?
Yeah. Let's just say, I'm going to say it at the top. This episode is an effing delight, and I don't give a crap about any of these wormholes.
Right. But let's say this right now, because I'm going to tie it back later. In order for that to be true, what Keith just said, it has to earn it, right? The episode has to earn it. I think we both clearly think that it does, but we will highlight. Well, clearly, it sounds like in your rundown you're putting them in, so we'll mention them. Yeah.
I'll point it out, and that's the thing about wormholes, right? They're not all equal.
Yeah.
And context is important, and sometimes it matters very much, and it takes away from the episode, and it just like eats away at your world building and the realism of the entire thing. And sometimes, who gives a crap?
Well, we also don't specify where he's at and how far away it was, and it's Quark. And the good thing about Quark in wormholes is the yada 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 is really easy because he's got so many back deal partnerships and agreements and favors owed that, I mean, we could easily fill in the gaps here, and thus we don't need to.
No, and that's actually a good point. That it's like we were talking about the character building that allows us to shorthand everyone's motivation going into it. The world building, they didn't need to do the couplet like, oh, I borrowed it, I hopped on the Defiant because somebody owed me something, so we were like, we know Quark has a reason as a way to do this. And
we also know, which is really cool in this, so much world building takes place in this like lighthearted episode, right? The way, and you're about to tell us how, the way they strong arm and call, what's this guy's name again? Gala's bluff here, his physical bluff, is great. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, and they know he's a coward. So he was brought here for vagrancy for reasons, who cares? He's still pissed and wants to kill Quark, but Quark calls his bluff, like you said, because Gala, he's a coward. But he's offered a chance at freedom and a chance to earn some latinum, so he's in. Quark's already paid his fine, so he's good to go. They have 5. Back in Quark's, Nog starts training them on how to rescue Moogie from the Dominion Detainment Center. Nog demands everyone call him Sir, hilariously, but also 100% in keeping with the character. Again, go back to the pilot and think about the Nog we knew there, and now he's like a full Federation officer barking orders. It's awesome. Then Gala points out, we have a problem. We don't have a ship. We have no way to get there. Enter Liquidator Brunt, ex-Liquidator Brunt, because everyone who comes across Quark at some point has their entire occupation destroyed. But it doesn't matter, because you can't have an episode without Jeffrey Combs. Let's be honest.
The other thing I want to point out, production-wise here, this scene, the whole episode, but this scene specifically, really lets you see the flex of 2 things. One, like generally we rarely see more than one Ferengi in a scene, right?
Right.
The design, it seems ubiquitous, but it's not. Each and every one of their dental prosthetics, different. The way they have to talk around it, different. Their costumes, intricate and ornate, each one individually so.
Beautifully done.
Their head sculpts, the ears, the lobes, the eyebrows, everything
they're all different.
Is different, unique, and awesome. I will say that the AI did help in that department a little bit. Really appreciate it.
And there's storytelling in all of it. Because, go back to the one we were looking at there. The sociopath assassin's brow comes down right to his eyes, so he looks like extra evil up there. And so, whereas it's higher on Nog because he's a good guy, and it's really just great work, just fantastic work. So anyway, so Liquidator Brunt shows up and they banter for a bit before they get to the point. Brunt has a ship. They now have 6. In Act 2, Nog is running them through battle drills against the holographic Jem'Hadar. It's going about as well as you would suspect. Rum runs into a wall, Gala surrenders, and then Lek shoots Moogie. Hilarious.
Yes.
this plan is not going to work. And Rom says, brother, we've been going about this the wrong way. We're not commandos, we're negotiators. We make deals. That's what we're good at. The Dominion has something we want, so we need to find something they want.
If Rom had a baby with Obama that then mated with Kermit the Frog, that is your Rom impression.
Rombama?
Rombama.
Let me see. All right, let's do this line as Obama. Brother, we've been going about this the wrong way. We're not commandos. We're negotiators. And Kermit, we make deals. That's what we're good at. The Dominion has something we want, so we need to find something they want. Quark says, oh,
Man,
no.
Keith, we got flagged. Oh, did you leave? What happened? The rundown.
No. I scrolled.
Oh, okay.
Then Quark says, and then we make a trade. That way, everyone goes home happy and alive. Now, what do we have to trade? Again, smart writing.
Mm-hmm.
And let's use their advantages. So later in Sisko's office, they've made a deal. Kira helped swing it in payment for rescuing her in an episode of Sons of Anarchy. Wink. It's an Easter egg. We find out what the deal is.
I thought first, I loved this so much better, obviously, but at first I thought it might be Dukat.
Oh.
But he's high value. He's probably too high value for this.
He's way too high value. So we
Though
find out
Mookie
what the deal
is sort of low-key the most important person on Ferengi.
She's definitely the shadow Nagus, for sure.
Which clearly, I mean, we'll get to this later. I have some thoughts, but clearly the Dominion must know, right? Obviously, otherwise, why kidnap her?
I think so. I think so, yeah. But it's... The Dominion's plan and their objectives here are little... Who knows?
It is the wormhole, because they never even bring it up. They don't even explain it.
Well,
it has to be. I mean, it has to be that because otherwise they would have just killed her, right? If it was that they want to cut off the head of Ferenginar, my guess is they want to strong arm Ferenginar into joining the Dominion or something of the like, and took her under threat. And Nagus figured, or they put a huge ransom on it, and the Nagus was like, it'd probably be easier to just send in Quark rather than pay the amount.
I think that's all true. I think in Dungeons and Dragons, we have a thing called, and I believe they took it out of the latest version, but we used to, back in the day, have something called an attack of opportunity. And so I don't think the Dominion had a big plan to let's go capture Moogie. I think they just saw the Ferengi thing. They boarded oh crap, hey, that's Ishka. Let's take her and we'll figure out what to do about it later.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
I bet that's what happened. So in this, we find out what the deal is. They're going to exchange Ishka for another prisoner. Of course, it's Kevin, the odious toad of a Vorta from the ship.
Yeah,
fantastic.
That was great. He was sick when we met him, right? And then he sold out all his men.
He sold out all of his guys to survive, but he was particularly just awful.
Keith, mark it. Flag in the grass, or what do you say? Flag in the whatever.
Flag in the grass.
Planting my flag. I have a hot take.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
All right.
This scene right here, when he comes on the little ship here, the funniest scene of all of Deep Space Nine. I cackled when he comes in and Rom is like, "Hi, I'm Rom." And starts introducing. I freaking peed myself. Oh, so funny. Great. So good.
This whole episode is hilarious.
Yeah.
And
I would say also, hot take, per capita, the most legit, authentic LOLs, laughs per minute that I've had, period, on this show. It's just was the comedic writing was almost flawless.
And that is not always true for Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek is not always super funny, and the Ferengi episodes, they sometimes push a little too hard. They push past the point of funny,
mm-hmm.
but this is subtle enough that it's right right in the wheelhouse, right on the funniest line for all of this tonally, and it's just, and it's because it's character based, and it is I agree. I think it's super super funny,
and I like that. Well, okay. So also, I like that Kira and that the Federation and Ben agree to let them go on this mission because not just because they owe them something, but it's also Quark's mom, and she has some importance. And I think that Ben doesn't give the old. I could easily see the scene where Ben just sort of like casts it off, like, you Ferengis, or like, like they don't take it seriously. I think they've earned that they do. So that's
well, and let's not forget that we're in a gigantic war, and Ferenginar has not chosen a side.
Right.
So, they're probably not going to be the Klingons in battle, but they can be real freaking useful. In you really kind of want to be, they're like mostly on your side, but you want to keep that diplomatic door going well. So, the mistress of the president, you want to make sure, but you also using the diplomacy of not being like, we got it, kid. Letting them be in charge of this, letting them succeed, giving them the respect of the opportunity to fail or succeed on their own merits, I think is also good diplomacy. So they're all crammed onto the same little ship from Little Green Men on the way to Empok Nor, where Quark set up the exchange. Also great from multiple different levels here to use Empok Nor.
Well, yeah,
production level, obviously. You don't have to build any sets. But it has storytelling and subtext for Nog. For Nog, yes. I got it right! I'm going to get it wrong a lot this episode. Don't call me racist. But, like, for him, this is where, like, he got... Garrick almost killed him. So he's got some trauma associated with this, but it also makes a lot of sense. They explain it's a neutral territory, but they have the territorial advantage of knowing the station. So smart. So Kivan said, I advise you all to send your final messages to your loved ones in order to make sure your wills are in order. Why? Because the moment we leave this station, you'll have signed your death warrants. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a nap. Of course. So in Act 3, they arrive on the promenade of Empok Nor. Nog takes point, and they work their way through the darkness holding phaser rifles. Big, giant Ferengi phaser rifles, which are
look
cool.
Awesome. I had
never seen those before.
Yeah, my Federation take on the rifles not agrees with. I don't particularly like them, but these I like.
These are cool. Somebody out there... Did they make these for the show, or did they borrow them from another show? Because I know that when we did the arms dealer thing, they borrowed from some other sci-fi movie that wasn't successful. I'm curious. Somebody's going to know. Were these built for this, or are these borrowed from something else? I don't know. So they're using the infirmary for base camp. It's all clear. No one else is here, hopefully. Last time, there were a bunch of stabby Cardassians. In the infirmary,
and like a weird smoke that made you want to kill.
That's right, just the stabby smoke. So in the infirmary, they discover a bunch of extra medical supplies. More on that later. Rom sets up a defense perimeter, including external sensors and a transporter scrambler, and Kivan is not happy. Says, believe me when I tell you I have nothing to be happy about. Vorta are supposed to commit suicide when they're captured. I failed to follow that rather harsh policy. They're going to execute you after what is surely going to be a most unpleasant debriefing. Later, they're woken up by Gala screaming. He fell asleep, and Kivan has escaped. They all make chase, frantically running through the station, and discover Kivan on the ship.
And just knocking over containers, and so it's just chaos.
The Ferengi running for it. It's like...
It's Three Stooges style.
Hilarious. And so, like, these extended sequences of them running there and then running back, and they're all just like...
Well, that was the best Easter egg for me, because it's very much a chase trope that somebody, like, throws a thing down to, like, block their way or whatnot. But at the end of one take, I can't remember which Ferengi it is, but he's the last one in the line. So he throws down the barrel, and you're like, who are you protecting yourself from? Nobody's but chasing. And then on their way back, he's the one who trips over that barrel. Oh, it's great.
I'd never even noticed that. I have to go watch it again. But yeah, I mean, the just like hitting all these comedic nuggets as well as they do is just... I think
right, because they got the quippy dialogue, but then the physical comedy, it's a lot of stuff. It's hard.
And a lot of that's the direction.
Yeah.
And I think they did a tremendous job with that. So, anyway, they catch up with Kevin on the ship. Luckily, Rom disabled it. But then they get the Dominion ship approach. The Dominion ship is approaching. Alarm. And they all run back to the infirmary. So many running Ferengi shenanigans. They get back to the infirmary and hit the deck. The alarm goes off. Nog goes to check and finds a giant phalanx of Jem'Hadar holding phasers from high ground. Uh-oh, again. So in Act 4, they all whisper before Nog asks the obvious question. Why are we hiding? The Jem'Hadar are out there. Of course they're out there. We asked them to come. Hilarious. He's right, and everything is going to plan. Now all we have to do is negotiate the prisoner exchange. Kevin, of course, says the Jem'Hadar are going to kill all of you. So Quark, Nog, and Rom go out and talk to the Vorta. And it's Iggy Pop! All right, Mike. You're never going to get this, but it's going to be fun anyway. Mike, I need you to name 2 other musician cameos in 1990s Trek.
Give me a hint.
One of them was a Klingon, and the other one was a unspoken fish guy.
All right, I would have said Christopher Lloyd, but not. You said musician.
Musician.
Klingon. Garth Brooks?
Almost. So the fish guy was Mick Fleetwood, and the Klingon, ready? John Tesh.
Oh. Klingon.
Yep, that's exactly right. And he's standing there with Moogie and a ton of Jem'Hadar. They stare at each other. It's a showdown at the OK Corral.
He's got Elvis hair.
What's that?
Got Elvis hair.
Of course. I mean, if you're gonna do it, you gotta have the Iggy Pompadour. So Rob says, Moogie, my boys, I knew you'd come. You look beautiful. My lobes haven't been this firm in over a century. I guess this makes it all worthwhile. Don't you start with me, Quark. So Yelgin, Iggy, wants to hurry up and finish the transaction. Quark then starts making some smart decisions. He wants all but 2 of the Jem'Hadar to leave and head back to Dominion space. And Yelgin says that would leave me stranded here for a few days. I see. By the time they return, you'll be long gone. That's the idea. On the other hand, I could just have my Jem'Hadar storm the infirmary and kill you all. Fair point. Quark says you attack the infirmary and Kevin will be the first to die. Kevin's fate's already been sealed. Maybe. But before he dies, I'll bet you want to know what Dominion secrets he revealed to the Federation. Now this gets Yelgin's attention and respect. And he looks forward to the Ferengis joining the Dominion. So, thus sort of making clear why both sides in this war are sort of willing to put up with the Ferengis running around and causing chaos. Because they both kind of want them to join. So it's interesting. So they agree to do this in a half an hour. But first, Nog demands that they check that Moogie is not a changeling. He cuts her hand and she beats him over the head.
That was LOL too.
Hilarious.
But I'm glad that they had that little beat, because you're like, yeah, right. This whole thing could be a ruse.
Yeah. It's a good shot of those phasers.
They're cool.
Those had to be from something. I don't know. I didn't see it in the trivia. So Quark says, family, you understand. And Yelgin says, not really. I was cloned.
That Another great LOL.
Another great line. So it's so good. That's the part about this. What makes this episode so successful is every single little scene is such a little like slice of joy because it's all funny.
It's got a Lower Decks vibe in that it's like it's taking the piss, but also it's in world, and so it kind of works. Yeah, I like it.
Well, that's why it's so tonally successful, and this is why I think this is my favorite Ferengi episode of the whole series, because it really helps it rides that line tonally, where we're like, we're in our world, we're at war, it's real, this is important. Also, the Ferengis are kind of ridiculous, but not so ridiculous it doesn't feel like the same show. So they check on Moogie, then they head over to the infirmary and celebrate. They're a half hour from this all being over. But of course, this is when Rom accidentally lets it slip that Quark is cheating the rest of them on the reward money, leading Gala to try to shoot Quark, who moves, and they shoot Kevin, who says, "I hate Ferengi," and with that, falls dead.
I mean, so good. They set it up perfectly by continually reaffirming that he's dead already.
Right.
Dead man walking. So that we're able to just be like, killed him. Just like, But also, I never saw The Weekend at Bernie's coming. I never saw this murder coming. I just didn't see it coming. And I did look over when they went back there before the exchange, and I saw there was like 16 minutes left, and I was thinking to myself, how are they going to extend this episode? Like, where is the next pain point or the fulcrum?
Plot point, yeah.
And just so clever, so good, so funny, but also it built a lot of tension. So how are they going to get out of this? So cool.
And they're going to like Ferengi their way out, which is the best part. Like the best part is the solution.
And also they set up the fact, remember, he's the guy who shot Moogie in the simulations. Right. So that's a repeated beat. We set everything up. It's like it was all there for you.
Yeah, it's just, and they also like set it up so that we're at no point bothered by the fact that we just killed a guy.
Yeah, right.
Because in this episode, in the previous episode, we've wanted to kill this guy forever. Yeah. So it genuinely is hilarious when he dies, and not sad. So in Act 5, now what? And they know, of course, without Kevin, the Dominion is going to kill them all. And they debate their bad options. Quark says, no one's hiding, no one's escaping, and no one's surrendering. What's the matter with all you people? Have you forgotten the Battle of Prenax? Who could forget the most important battle in Ferengi history? 10 Ferengi stood alone against 273 Lystatans. Obviously, we're doing a 300 reference here. Or the Spartans. In real life. As I recall, all 10 Ferengi were slaughtered. The point is, we Ferengis are just as tough as anybody in the galaxy, and this is our chance to prove it once and for all. They're all fired up, and Quark is a good leader, after all. And I think about the after effects of Sons of Anarchy, right? And Quark killing the 2 Jem'Hadar. And we saw in that moment the sort of trauma of going through that. But I also think at the end of that, there's also this confidence and this strength that Quark has now that he didn't. Is like being, brave enough to do this, being a good enough leader, wanting to plant this flag. I think, this is another example of the way that Quark has changed a lot over the series, but also just since Sacrifice of Angels. So then Nog confirms that Kevin is dead again. But then he accidentally triggers a motor response with a neurostimulator. Oh boy, here comes the idea. And Ram says, I never knew you studied medicine at the academy. And Nog says, I love this too, because it's so smart and so true. Nog says, I didn't. But if you think about it, medicine isn't that different from engineering. It's all about keeping things running, fixing broken parts. Quark says, you thinking what I'm thinking? Find me more neural stimulators. Love it. Quark then meets with Yelgren and buys time by moving the transfer location to the airlock next to the ship. What's wrong with the promenade? Nothing, except my ship is docked at airlock 3. You understand. Only too well. I must say, your lack of trust saddens me. a sign of the times. What is the wormhole, Mike?
Worth pointing out. Doesn't even rise to the level of nit, but it should point it out. Everything we've seen from Quark in previous episodes and whatnot, where he is at his peak Quarkness, is in improvisational moments like this. Right. And I think they directed it for him to be way too bothered and grasping for straws, right?
You think?
I think so. I think he should have been a lot more calm, cool, and collected here.
Weird, because I actually took him as
no. Go back and rewatch it. It seemed a little. It didn't feel Quark. It felt like they were playing the comedy of it, like, there's nothing behind this door. I mean, instead of him having his shit together, which I think is more Quark.
Well, at this moment, in the larger scheme, he definitely has his shit together. I think in this moment, he needs to buy time.
Yes.
And if he does, I have to prevent you from coming through this door. If you do, I'm going to die immediately.
Yeah, I think they could have... It's such a little thing, but if I was to rewrite it, I would have had them find me more neural stimulators, door opens, and he's got to, he's put on the spot. It just felt like he had enough time to prepare something for this moment, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
Oh, I guess it depends on how much time you think elapsed between get me more stimulators, because I think it's immediate. I think it's like, get me more neural stimulators, then he's calling, come out.
Yeah, but it didn't feel that way in the cut, for me.
All right, well.
That's the only reason
aren't facts,
I wrote it down, all right?
Candy Finnegan says feelings aren't facts.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't, we might as well mention it.
No,
because we're so high on the episode, we might as well mention some of the stuff.
So, we cut to the airlock corridor, where they plan on swapping prisoners down a hallway. And we, like you said, are gonna Weekend at Bernie's the crap out of this. They begin the transfer.
When was that movie? Now I have to know.
Weekend at Bernie's? Oh, I think that was before this. I think that was 89.
89?
Something like that?
Yeah.
Holy crap, I've never even seen the movie.
Well, which one of the 12? There's a few.
Are there really?
There's a bunch.
That's funny you do a sequel to that.
It is funny. I think the premise of that is funny. I don't know if the movie was any good. I only ever saw the first one.
That's amazing. Anyway, so they begin the transfer, and Nog remote controls Keevan's corpse from a tricorder. He's moving, but not great. And Yelgren's take of what have they done to him? Hilarious.
Yep.
Keevan stumbles.
Also, this performance really good. Not just the Frankenstein part, but his sort of resignation the whole episode. He's really good.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
I mean, why do we hate him so much? It's because the performance is so good.
He also does this thing I haven't seen a ton with the other Vorta. He really leans into the lizard physicality of the Vorta, which I think matches sort of their aesthetic. I really love his sort of physicality with it, which we don't see as much from Wei Yun. Wei Yun has a very sort of more of a used car salesman air to him. Very comfortable in his body.
They're very different.
Yeah.
We've met a bunch of different Vorta now, and they're all different. They're like Skittles, right? They're all completely different flavors, but they all have an intensity to them. They're flavorful, is what I mean to say.
Yeah, I guess I always look at it from an actor perspective. When you're playing an alien, right? How do you even begin that process, right? So I think some actors try to find the physicality first, right? Or some people are informed by the costume. Some people are informed by Jeffrey Combs seems to me very much like, what is my intent? What is my want here? He's very intention based,
very manipulative.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's fun. I mean, I love the Vorta.
Yeah.
I'm
very cool. I would want to be a Vorta. Did I mention that?
What's that?
I would want to be a Vorta. Did I mention that?
And bang one apparently.
Sure.
But every episode that has a
female
Vorta. Yeah. The first Vorta we ever met was female.
Oh yeah, yes, and that yes. Whoa, that was a long time ago.
Then the flirty one
with Ben, right, in that little circle prison.
In the circle prison, and then the flirty one when they recovered the Dominion ship in season 4.
Yeah. They got a thing for Ben, right? Ben's got that. He's got those Vorta pheromones.
I mean, doesn't anybody?
That's true.
All right. So, Keevan stumbles into a wall. It's hilarious. Quark gets Moogie, and the gig is up. And the two murdery Ferengi shoot the Jem'Hadar. leaving only the Vorta left, they all laugh and celebrate and take Yelgren prisoner and back to Starfleet.
That was a great beat, funny and everything, but do you know what it reaffirmed for me, storytelling-wise, in our sort of progression through the show? It reminded me that the Vorta, for as much power as they are imbued by being sort of the speakers for the founders, they actually need the muscle of the Jem'Hadar, because without them, what did he do? Instant shriveling mess. He folds and easily is taken. Like there is no physical intimidation from them whatsoever.
Well, and it is interesting that because they are a separate species, like in our military, right? Usually you work your way up the ranks having started as a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the general used to be a private, worked all the way up there, or, whatever it is, they know how to fight. In this setup, they're not fighters. They didn't graduate from anything. They were sort of planted this way. And so, yeah, they're absolutely useless in a fight.
And also, I think we've mentioned this before, I think the founders sort of reverse engineered the hierarchy, sort of like a Voltron, right? They're all together great, but separate, their parts aren't as strong. But the sort of hubris of the founders think, well, there'll always be Voltron, right? So They will always be intimidating. But once you start breaking it down, they're easily taken,
Yeah, they each have sort of a defining Achilles heel, which is interesting. So, Lek says to Quark, I've never seen a sloppier, more amateurish operation in my life. If you ever do something like this again, count me in. And Rom says, so brother, how does it feel to be a hero? Quark says, you tell me. It feels good? You bet it does. And I love Quark. See, this is another change in Quark.
Mm-hmm.
Previous Quark would never have called his brother a hero.
Oh, anything where they're like even remotely affectionate towards one another is so earned and beautiful. What a great way to end the episode.
And and we leave on the final shot of them heading out, leaving Kivan still bumping into the wall. Phenomenally funny. Like, how long is he going to be there decomposing, bumping into a wall? And the final image, not in the script. So another kudos to the director of this episode, Chip Palmers. Another, whose ever idea that was, fantastic.
Perfect. Yeah.
What a great way to end. All right, you know what? This episode ends great. I don't know if we will, but we're going to end anyway with our segment.
2, 3.
All right, Mike, what was your best moment?
Oh, there's so many good ones, but I'm going to go back to what I said. I don't think I've laughed as hard as just a take from Rom saying, hi, I'm Rom, introducing himself. I think it perfectly encapsulates what this episode was able to achieve, which is sheer comedy. Sitcom comedy in the midst of an intergalactic war in a sci-fi show. Level of difficulty so much higher than it seems, and the success level is off the charts. This is a great example of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is peak Ferengi. This is where all of the world building you've done pays off, and because Ferengi episodes are very polarizing, right? Mm-hmm. Some people love them, some people hate them. Some of them are good, some of them are terrible, and this is, I think, just the, like as you say, firing on all cylinders. So for me, it's sort of obvious, right? It's the big joke of the episode, but Weekend at Bernie is the dead guy. It's so funny.
It makes total sense, good. But also is a surprise. So the episode isn't without surprise and taking turns and so much whimsy. I
mean, I could smarten it up and bring about some little character thing or some word. No, it's so funny. It's just so damn funny, bumping into the wall. I mean, come on. If you don't find that funny, you don't know what funny is. Yeah. Let's go, Stem Bolt, shall we?
Yep.
You get some Stem Bolts.
So, we talked about so much stuff. You know, I love me some whimsy, and generally I love either this really cerebral two-handers or the lore-based episodes or even the action shoot-'em-ups. This is none of them, but sort of all of them also, right?
Yeah.
One thing this I think lesson learned from some of their other Ferengi episodes is usually, like you mentioned, they just kind of throw the stakes out the window, nothing's important but the comedy, and we're just kind of taking a break. It's a week off, if you will. But this doesn't do that. I mean, we tie in some previous stuff, like we got the collateral for the Forta because of previous episodes, and Quark earned his ability to sort of go on this adventure because of his help with Kira. In addition, the stakes are high. Mugi is a high-value asset. It's their mom. It ties into the Nagus, who is a leader of a faction. So it's all important. Also, it's made very clear that they could be killed at any moment. And it's a good collection of them. There's sort of the pacing to get all of the team. They don't belabor it. They give it just enough time to show why each of them is important. Each of them is a caricature, but at the same time has stakes, motivation, and intention, and a reason to be there. Unlike, I felt like last week, where the threesome didn't quite all need to be. I understand why they were, but they didn't feel unique and individual, whereas each of these people does. They set up the comedy going forward. There's so many beats of three. There's a moment where Rom has 3 lines that aren't even lines. He sort of moans on different tones
right.
in 3 cuts. It's really funny because it's in 3, so it's like a really attuned sense of comedy. The payoffs are all set up, and the pacing's just chef's kiss. The sort of freak appearances of our main cast in sort of a nod that, like, look, this is a Ferengi episode, are all done really uniquely and I think cleverly. I really, to be honest, man, we pointed out some quibbles, some ways where we're like, meh, who cares? But I think that is earned. And listen, I'm telling you, I wasn't just like laughing or chuckling or I was invested the whole time.
You weren't grading on a Star Trek comedy curve.
No, this is really funny, and not only that, the adventure of it, really cool. Twists and turns, an ending I didn't predict. The stakes felt high, even when nobody's gonna die, and but yet it's still, the tension was there. I thought all the running, the sort of spoof of physical action sequences still worked as actual. There's not a lot it did wrong, Keith. And I think if you have an issue with it, it's because you have an issue with the Ferengi plot lines and how they're sort of set aside as separate sort of genre episodes. And that's totally fair. Totally fair. For me, I don't know what more I could want, especially since it sets it up from the very beginning. It's like, this is the kind of story we're telling up front. So if you're looking for like a deep lore, the war is all raging kind of story, this isn't it. Which is all you really need. Even as a bottle episode, I think it's really effective. It has to get an A from me. And in my school, we started A's at 93. So I'm giving it 93 self-sealing stem bolts. Like, it's in the top tier. It's a good episode.
No, it really is. And it's like I think this episode, I think the most succinct way to say it, like, this is just an unqualified delight.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a delightful episode. But the souffle rises because it has enough of the salt, it has enough meat in there. It's not just whipped cream. I don't know. The
salt, meat, and whipped cream? I'm not sure what you're describing, but it's not a souffle.
Well, at least it'll rise when it comes out.
Yeah, okay.
It's not good. Yeah, that's a horrible metaphor. Well, I guess I'm just hungry, but I don't know what I want. That's the problem.
Yeah, meat. You need that salty meat whipped. You know what I mean? Keith's salty whipped meat.
Just out of the can.
But it just hits you in the face and bounces off. Okay, can we get back to
it? Wow. All right. Well, you did a better job than I did, guys. No, it's just there are plot holes, there are holes or whatever. I wish we knew one more Ferengi better, that we didn't have one sort of rando on the journey. But you work with
but
what you got.
This kind of felt like they were setting him up for maybe a future arc. Like,
we'll see.
It was definitely didn't feel one-off.
Yeah. So it's like the part of me that loves the symmetry of us knowing everybody, like that would be a little. I wish, but look, you have to make the souffle with the ingredients that you have. So if you only have meat, salt, and whipped cream, you gotta make it work, right? That's make it work, guys. So hey designers, you need to make it work. All right, that's my other weird accent. But
I think the trap that you could see watching this is to think that because it's a comedy that it was an easy, like, production-wise, this was a feat because of the makeup and all of the action stuff. Also, comedy's really hard.
Super hard.
And like you said, in order for a comedy to work, this episode to work, so many things had to be balanced and paced properly, just right, because any one thing could throw it off.
Yep.
And I think the whipped meat salt really did so.
And I gotta shout out to Iggy Pop.
Yeah, great.
Really good.
We've yet to see a
really
Vorta
good.
that has let us down.
No, the Vortas are all first class, but like this is, you have no idea it's a celebrity cameo. He just gives a great performance, and he's interesting, and he's specific, and very watchable, and like super, super fun. So for me, I'm with you. I give it 92 self-sealing stem bolts. Just what a season. What a season we're on. Yeah. Holy crap. I mean, just like, there's been a couple we didn't like, but just like, these are just bangers. And the elevation, like, because, like you have one Ferengi episode or one or two Ferengi. If this is the Ferengi episode for this season, my God, how great. So in the real world, it gets an 8.1 out of 10, which makes this episode number 40 out of 173. So definitely top 50. I can't wait to hear what everybody else thinks about. I bet people are gonna like this one because it's Magnificent Ferengi. How can you not? We will be back next week with the episode Waltz. Okay. So that will be.
We haven't done an episode in 3 in a while.
No, that's true. Well, you should bring Cadet Ellie, and she can just sort of spin in the background. It'll be perfect. All right, so do all of our stuff. You can reach us. Look at my Star Trek Toys at gmail.com. K&M Entertainment.
Yes.
At gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Spell out the and. Is that true?
Yes. Keith and Mike Entertainment at gmail.com if you want to chat or invite me to your wedding. Get my address.
There it is. Yeah. So join our Patreon.com. Blah, 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 blah. We will see you back next week with Waltz. Till then, this has been Keith and Mike. Watch Deep Space Nine. Thank you for watching K&M Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe. Or become one of our patrons at patreon.com/KNM. Oh, good. I mean, somebody's interested in that. Mike, but you're magnificent to me.
Aww.
Aww.
Friendy Gerdy. Friendy Gerdy.
Just play the damn thing, good lord.